Foundations of Special and Inclusive Education.
So, hello everyone. Good day. This is Aisa Mani and I will going to discuss our topic for today about learners with difficulty and remembering and focusing. So, in this discussion, we will learn about students who find it difficult to remember their lessons, concepts, even instructions, and as well as those who find it difficult to sustain their focus. So, the International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health of the World Organization, or the ICF, of who in 2001, they provides definitions of specific mental functions and focusing. So, according to them, memory functions include short-term memory, long-term memory, and retrieval. So, later, I will discuss these three terms, but let us first discuss what is memory for further understanding. So, memory is the power or process of reproducing or recalling what has been learned and retained, especially through associative mechanism, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary. So, alam natin na ang utak natin ang imbakan ng mga impormasyon, di ba? Meaning, ito ay ang kakayahan ng isang tao na makapag-imbak, makapagpanatili at ma-recall ang mga pangyayari o ang mga napag-aralan sa pamamagitan ng magkaugnay na pamamaraan o mekanismo. While attention functions include sustaining, shifting, dividing, and sharing attention. So later, I will discuss these terms that include in attention functions. So according to cognitive research, attention is the ability to choose and concentrate on relevant stimuli. Attention is the cognitive process that makes it possible to position ourselves towards relevant stimuli and consequently respond to it. It means, so ito yung pagbibigay pansin o concentration ng ating stimuli sa isang bagay na ating ginagawa. And this cognitive ability is very important and is an essential function in our daily lives. Kasi araw-araw ay meron tayong ginagawa na dapat nating pagtuunan ng pansin upang tayo ay hindi magkamali. Let us now discuss the definitions of memory and attention functions according to Sandschak in 2011. So, according to Sandschak, memory functions include encoding, storage, and retrieval of information over time. So, let us discuss these three terms that involves in memory functions. First is encoding. Encoding involves the input of information into the memory system. To better understand it, according to Lumen Learning, encoding is the act of getting information into our memory system through automatic or effortful processing. So, meaning, ito ay pagtanggap ng information o pagpasok ng information sa ating memory system. We get information into our brains through a process called encoding, which is the input of information into the memory system. Once we receive sensory information from the environment, our brains level to code it. We organize the information with other similar information and connect new concept to existing concept. Encoding information occurs through automatic processing and effortful processing. So, to better understand it, let me give an example. For example is when you first learn new skills such as driving a car. You have to put forth effort and attention to encode information about how to start a car, like how to brake, how to handle a turn, and so on. Once you know how to drive, you can now encode additional information about these skills automatically, and that is encoding. Encoding is input of information into the memory system. The second one is storage. Storage is the retention of the encoded information into our memory system. So, ito naman siya is yung pagpapanatili sa mga information na natanggap ng ating utak. So, kung sa encoding is input of information, dito naman is retention of information. So, once the information has been encoded, we have to somehow to retain it. Our brains take the encoded information and place it in storage. So, storage is the creation of a permanent record of information. In order for our memory to go into storage, dumadaan muna ito sa short-term memory and then to long-term memory. And finally, we can now retrieve that information. For example, ay yung learning how to drive a car. So, once na natanggap na ng utak natin yung mga information about how to start driving, ay i-store na natin ito sa ating utak at tatandaan natin ang mga yon. From short term pa lang siya or temporarily restored pa lang siya hanggang sa maging long term memory na ito, at kapag kabisado na natin ay madali na lang sa atin na ma-recall yung mga information about how to start driving. The last one is retrieval. Retrieval is getting the information out of memory and back into awareness. So, ito naman siya is yung pagbabalik ng mga information na naka-restored sa ating utak. No? Let us now proceed to the 3 functions of memory according to Suntrack and 2011. So, the first one is the short-term memory. It is mental resources that allow for storing information temporarily for only approximately 30 seconds, and after which is lost if strategies are not used to integrate them into long-term memory. So, short-term memory is anything that's in your mind or in your memory stays for just 30 seconds. And if it makes past to 30 seconds, its mark is considered belong to long-term memory. To better understand it, let me give examples. Example is remembering or memorizing a 7-digit landline number. No? For a moment, until you have a change of mind to write it down, you would say it over and over in your brain for you to remember the numbers. Now, there's a lot of people may get panic because they have a short-term memory, but these examples of memory loss are absolutely normal and nothing to worry about. Another example is misplacing object like your phone or your case is totally normal. So, the second one is long-term memory. It is mental resources that allow for storing information for a long period of time. So, to better understand it, according to Daniel B. Black, MD, in 2020, long-term memories refers to the storage of information over an extended period of time, a type of relatively lasting memory. So, ito yung matagal na pagpapanatili ng information natin sa ating utak. For example is if you can remember something that happened more than just a few moments ago, whether it occurred just hours ago or decades earlier, then it is a long-term memory, no? Like your first day of schools, no? A car accident, then it is a long-term memory. The last one is retrieval. Retrieval, according to Suntrack in 2011, is a mental resources used to recall information stored in a long-term memory. No? It is our ability to retrieve information from long-term memory. Our ability to retrieve information from long-term memory is vital to our everyday functioning as an individual. You must be able to retrieve information from memory in order to do something every day. To better understand it, let me give an example. Example is, you have worked hard to encode through effortful processing and store some important information for your upcoming final exam. No? How do you answer the questions now? The act or process of getting information out of memory storage and back into conscious awareness is known as retrieval. No? Yung pagbabalik ng mga information na nakastore sa ating utak ay retrieval. So, let us now discuss the 3 types of attention according to Suntrack. First is sustained attention. Sustained attention is a mental resources used to maintain attention for for an extended period, also called vigilance, no? Ito yung matagal na pagbibigay atensyon sa isang bagay. So, example is staying focused while reading a chapter in a classical novel without any interruptions until it is finished. The next one is relative attention. It is mental resources that allows for focusing on a specific stimulus that is important while ignoring others, no? So ito yung nagfo-focus ka lang sa isang importanteng bagay at iniignora mo yung mga ibang bagay na hindi naman importante. For example is focusing on the voice of a lecturer amidst, no? Sa gitna ng maingay na grupo, hindi nagfo-focus doon sa sinasabi ng lecturer, ay mas pinipili mong ang pakinggan lang ay yung lecturer dahil yun yung importante at in-ignore mo na lang yung mga nag-iingay sa paligid mo, no? So, yun yung relative attention. The last one is dividing attention. It is mental resources that involve focusing on one more activities or tasks simultaneously. So, ito yung hindi isang bagay lang yung pinagtutuunan mo ng pansin. Multitask, ika nga. For example is listening to a music while driving, reading while listening music, and watching TV while eating are examples of dividing attention. Let us now proceed to our next topic, which is the students with learning disability or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Students with learning disabilities or LD and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD are characterized by having difficulties with memory and attention function. So ito yung may mga problema sa kanilang memory and attention functions. The term learning disability was coined by Samuel Kirk in 1962 when he met with parents and families as they discussed about students who encountered pronounced difficulties in school despite having average to above average intelligence. He further described students with learning disabilities as a heterogeneous mix of learners who all had neurologically based problems that affected their learning in different ways, according to Kirk et al. In 2015. Meaning, magkakaiba-iba ang mga learners ng disabilities. Mayroong may pronunciation disability, mayroon namang may writing disabilities, and etc. So, to better understand learning disabilities, Gargiulo in 2012 provided common components on the definitions of learning disabilities. So, the first one is intellectual functioning within normal range. So, ito yung mga bata na katamtaman lang yung kanilang mental capacity. So, the next one is significant gap or discrepancy between a student's assumed potential and actual achievement. So, minsan, si teacher is ina-assume niya na mataas yung kakayahan ng bata or yung potential ng bata, which is ang totoo ay hindi naman. So, nagiging barrier yun between the learnings of the students. So, the next one is interference that learning disability is not primarily caused by other disabilities or extrinsic factors. Next is difficulty in learning in one or more academic areas. So, ang batang may learning disabilities ay hindi lang iisang subject, kumbaga siya nahihirapan, kung hindi minsan isa or higit pa. So, the last one is presumption of CNS or Central Nervous System dysfunction. So, sa mga susunod na reporters, tatalakay nila sa atin itong CNS dysfunction. So, the Disabilities Education Act in 1997, in Halalan 2014, page 168, they also said that learning disability which focuses on difficulties in one or more basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, which may manifest as difficulties in the ability to listen, think, spark, read, write, spell, or do mathematical calculations. So, this learning disabilities has a type of difficulty. So, first one is dyslexia. The second one is dyscalculia, and the third one is dysgraphia. So, I will discuss these three types of specific learning disabilities. So, dyslexia is characterized by difficulties with accurate and fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and word reading abilities that result from a deficit in phonological processing abilities. So, dyslexia is for difficulties with reading, spelling, and oral reading fluency. So, to better understand dyslexia, According to Mayo Clinic, dyslexia is a learning disorder that involves difficulty in reading due to problems identifying speech sounds and learning how they relate to letters and words. So, meaning, it has something to do with our literacy skills, or such as reading, writing, and spelling. No? The second one is dyscalculia. It is a specific learning disability that affects how students acquire and develop their arithmetic skills despite average intelligence, according to Shaliv in 2011, and may manifest as difficulty in retrieval of math facts and understanding number concepts of using symbols or functions. So, meaning, ang dyscalculia is for difficulties in math computation, problem solving, and analysis. So, the last one is dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is specific learning disabilities that affects the development of writing abilities, which may display as spelling, handwriting, and expressive writing difficulties resulting from problems in organizing and putting thoughts on paper, according to the National Center for Learning Disabilities, or the NCLD, in 2007, cited in Learning Disabilities Online in 2019. So, lagi nating tandaan na when we say dyslexia is for difficulties with reading, spelling, and oral reading fluency, while ang dyscalculia naman is difficulties in math computation, problem solving, and analysis. And ang dysgraphia naman is for difficulties with handwriting and written expression. So, yun yung pagkakaiba-iba ng tatlong specific learning disabilities ng isang estudyante o isang individual. Let us now proceed to our next topic, the ADHD, or the Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So, the DSM-5 American Psychiatric Association in 2013 provides the diagnostic art for ADHD, which include inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity, and a combination of the two. A child to be diagnosed with ADHD, the observed should meet the following criteria, no? So, first is display a persistent pattern for at least 6 months that significantly interferes with functioning and development. So, the second one is observe in 2 or more settings. So, obserbahan natin yung bata kung may kakaiba siyang behavior na pinapakita sa, for example, is sa bahay, sa school, sa work, or with friends and with relatives, or in other activities. So, obserbahan natin kung may kakaibang behavior na pinapakita yung bata para malaman natin kung may sign siya ng ADHD. So, the third one is several of the symptoms were present before the age of 12 years. So, this behavior are not resulting from other disorders. Example is schizophrenia, anxiety disorder,
personality disorder, or etc. No, hindi naman ito nagre-resulta ng mga nasabing sakit. So, signs of the ADHD: inattention. So, in inattention, ang signs ng batang may ADHD is does not pay attention to details and works in a haphazard manner, resulting in careless mistakes. So, example ay sa mga sa school task, hindi pinapansin nung batang may ADHD kung maayos ba yung kanyang ginawa, no, yung kanyang ginagawa, or yung kanyang project kung maayos ba. Another one is kapag exam ay yung hindi siya nag-iisip, yung bentot-bentot lang yung pagsagot niya. So, parang wala siyang paki kung tama ba yung work niya, and ganun rin sa other activities na nagre-result upang maging mali yung mga gawain niya. So, the second one is finds it difficult to sustain attention in task is a sign of ADHD. So, nahihirapan siyang i-sustain yung bigyang atensyon yung mga task na kanyang dapat gawin. So, next is easily distracted and sidetracked by extraneous stimuli. So, madali siyang madistract sa kanyang ginagawa. Hindi siya nakakapag-focus ng maayos. So, yun yung isa sa sign na mayroon siyang ADHD. Next one is often does not follow through an instruction and fails to finish schoolwork, course, or duties in the workplace. So, understood na yun, no? Hindi siya gaanong nakaka-follow ng instructions na binibigay ni teacher halimbawa. So, next one is appears not to listen or distract when spoken to directly. So, kapag nasa klase ay nakikita natin yung bata na hindi nakikinig or distracted kapag siya ay ating kinakausap or tinatanong. So, the next one is has difficulty following instructions resulting in unfinished work. So, ito yung mga bata na mahirap makaintindi ng instructions kaya hindi niya nagagawa ng maayos o hindi niya natatapos yung kanyang task or work kasi nga hindi siya nakakapag-follow ng instructions. Mali-mali na yung mga kanyang nagagawa. The next one is shows a tendency to be forgetful in daily tasks and routines, no? Yung batang nagpapakita ng pagka makakalimutin sa mga tasks na lagi naman nilang ginagawa, no, is may sign ng ADHD. So, halimbawa na lang is yung bata na kailangan lagi siyang naka-wear ng ID tapos pagdating sa school ay nakalimutan niya. So, parang may sign siya ng ADHD kasi lagi namang parang rutina niya yung gawin pero nakakalimutan pa rin niya. So, the next one is has problems in organizing tasks and activities, no? So, nahihirapan siya mag-organize ng task. The last one is the students who tends to lose things that are needed for schoolwork and other activities. So, ito yung batang laging nawawala ng lapis, ballpen, or papers, diba, sa klase. Laging may ganong scenario, no? Maybe kapag hindi naman ninakaw ng kaklase, ay maybe di lang nila naaalala kung saan nila nalalagay yung mga gamit na nawawala sa kanila. Kaya, isa yun sa signs na mayroong ADHD ang bata. So, let's proceed to our next topic is the hyperactivity and impulsivity. So, first one na may sign ng bata ng hyperactivity and impulsivity or ADHD is first one is often restless and fidgety and cannot seem to stay still while sitting down. So, ito yung mga estudyante na malilikot, madalas na hindi mapakali sa upuan. So, the next one is one often stands from seat to roam around the room. So, ito yung bata na halos lahat naiikot na niya ang buong classroom sa sobrang kalikutan. Labas-masok pa. So, the next one is often runs around or climbs in situations when sitting is required. So, ito yung kahit pagsabihan ng bawal tumayo ay tatayo pa rin or bawal lumabas ay lalabas pa rin, no? Matigas ang ulo ng batang ito. So, the next one is often rather talkative, interrupts in conversation and blurts responses. So, ito yung bata na madaldal, mahilig mag-interrupt sa discussions sa klase. At kung may gusto siyang sabihin, ay talagang sasabihin niya. Hindi na siya nag-iisip kung ano yung impact ng kanyang sasabihin, no? Nagiging impulsive nga siya. So, the next one is finds it difficult to wait for one's turn in tasks and activities. So, ito yung bata na hindi makapaghintay sa kanyang turn or sa kanyang time sa isang task or activities na kasi gusto niya siya yung mauna, no? Parang mainitin siya sa paghihintay. So, impulsive with words and actions, no? Ito yung estudyante na pabiglag-bigla sa mga sinasabi at kinikilos, no? Hindi niya iisipan kung makakasakit ba siya sa mga salitang lumalabas sa bibig niya, no? Yung bigla na lang siyang magmumura o mananapak sa klase, mga ganong bata is may signs ng hyperactivity and mayroon siyang hyperactivity and impulsivity, and that's a signs of ADHD. The last one is may struggle in following instructions and rushes through tasks. So, ito yung hirap mag-follow ng instructions at minabadali yung mga ginagawa. Ito yung estudyante na maipasa lang yung project or yung requirements, no? Wala na siyang pake kung maganda ba yung kanyang ginawa, kung tama ba yung ginawa niya, no? Ito yung estudyante na wala siyang pake doon sa nilalaman ng kanyang output, no? Yung parang may maipasa lang, ganun. Pumasa lang siya, ayos na sa kanya.